All right, we're now being recorded. So welcome to tonight's product presentation for the Rapid DNA Drops. My name's Kauri Thompson. I'll be interviewing Pauline Kehoe this evening. I'm going to read her bio. It's full of things I might have a hard time pronouncing, so bear with me. Pauline Kehoe, or Penel Kehoe, earned her master's in 5-element acupuncture and also practices medicinal Qigong, Bazai, Chinese astrology, Human, Dunjia, and a certified analyst of human design, as well as author of YPD plus B. So it's great to have you on tonight, Pauline.
Hey, Kauri. Hey, everybody else.
So I met Pauline a couple of weeks ago. We're having this conversation, and she had some really unique approaches to our product line. And I thought, really cool stuff that I hadn't quite heard before. So I'm going to jump into a little bit about you, Pauline, if you don't mind. Tell us about the Eastern approach. We're so used to Western medicine, and a lot of people on the Zoom tonight are here because they primarily may support Western medicine, but they're looking for other holistic alternatives. So tell me kind of about your journey, where you're coming from, and who you are, basically.
Okay. All right. So I am, let's see, I'm going to switch my view. So I am a doctor's kid who from Miami. And at the time in the early 80s, I actually had the highest results that they had ever seen for Graves' disease, which is a thyroid disease of hyperactive thyroid. And everybody thought I was on drugs because it was the early 80s in Miami. And that kind of led me down the path of really appreciating Western medicine for what it can do, because it did change my life and I'm still here today. Yet the challenges that I experienced at a really early age radically changed my life. And it became a very hard path to discovering how I was going to live my life in a way that made sense for me. And at the same time, too, I was told a lot of things that were not actually the truth. And in that, like, I was creating my own problems and situations. And I feel like I was under medicated for about 13 years. I've had 8 surgeries. And my first career was in advertising and design. And then I quit my career, my first career in, I think it was 2001. It was really like after 9/11. I mean, I don't know, some of us may be the same age. I'm 54. And I knew that there were other things that I was gifted and talented in. And it was kind of a radical break for me from what I had been doing. And I enrolled myself in acupuncture school back in Florida, which is where I grew up. And that's the story. So now my joke is I have enough certificates to line the ceilings and the walls and the floors in this Eastern modality, energy sort of thing.
That's great. So if I understand correctly, from a very young age, you had some challenges, and that path is kind of taking you to outside of Western medicine, meaning you're looking for solutions that really weren't available to you. So through this research and through this self-development and through this education that you've gotten, you got to a place where you kind of wanted a different view and a different modality, if you will. Can you kind of explain to those on the Zoom tonight, what is the Eastern approach to holistic health?
Well, I mean, actually, so it's so great. I also want to mention too, I was asking holistic questions at a really young age and I didn't know it. It took many, many years before I realized in the early 80s, I was asking Western medicine these types of things. So, all medicine is and should be do no harm. I mean, that's the basis and the foundation of all medicine, no matter what the modality or country that you're in or language that you speak or religion that you have. And so for me, I went to the ancient medicine because this medicine is thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. And it's really worked for me. And I am on thyroid medication, so I have to have a Western approach to many things. If you break your arm, go to the emergency room. So, but the holistic approach is that I specifically do the most ancient acupuncture. I have a master's in it. It's called 5 Element. It's basically the 5 elements of nature. And a lot of candles, when you're in Target, say the 5 elements. That's not the ancient medicine. That's just some feng shui thing, at the limited kind of realm that you can have. And so specifically in the Chinese medicine I do is about, you are not your symptom. Whatever is happening in your life, and there could be 10,000 things happening, it's a sign of what's actually happening inside. And so the 5 elements are nature: wood, fire, earth, metal, water, and it's body, mind, emotion, and spirit. And so if you look at your life and what's happening for you, and you're able to translate it, that's what I call it, into the 5 elements, and we diagnose people based on color, sound, odor, and emotion, not symptom, then you can actually get to the root. And I think ultimately everyone who's in health and healing, no matter what their modality is, that's their goal, right? And so that's very much how I see everything, and it's how I see the drops.
Okay, that's cool. So there's a place for Western medicine, obviously.
Yeah.
But this Eastern approach, it's kind of like an approach of enlightenment. I've dabbled in some Eastern herbology and read some studies and done some different things. I've been to Taiwan and been analyzed by feng shui doctors on my health. And I'm going to tell you guys,
Good.
these guys are very in tune. And I'll tell you a quick story and we'll get on to you. I was in Taiwan a few years ago, met with a feng shui doctor, and he looked into the iris of my companions and he diagnosed them. And he was frighteningly accurate. I mean, it was really sobering for him to say to Dennis, you have kidney problems, you drink too much. And he just met Dennis like 20 minutes prior, right? So he got to me and he actually had a really good report. So I'm happy to say that. But it really interested me in Western medicine, I mean, and the Eastern approach. So Pauline, let's kind of talk about your journey and how you discovered our incredible we call them rapid DNA drops. You might have a different term for them. You probably do, in fact. But can you tell us about finding these products, what attracted you to them, and maybe just your initial view and response to them?
Okay, sure. So a friend of mine shared them with me, and I got a bunch of information. I was like, send me everything, and I was checking it out. And one of the most important things I heard on the video that's on the APL Go site is temperature below 80 degrees. That is the most important thing for everyone, because that means that this is live. And if you know people who are in raw, I mean, I was raw, like hardcore, like, I don't know, 2003. It's live. You want the freshness of your fruit and your plants to be as if it was grown in your garden. And the thing is like when you're cooking things, it's rendered the plants, I mean, it's dead. There's nothing alive in it. So you're not actually getting the nutrients and everything that you could receive. And so for me, I heard that immediately. And that's something I definitely want to get out to everybody here, is that it's live. So and it's 100%. What?
No, I'm sorry. So you're referring to the heated, so these anion DNA drops, the actual caramel is never taken above a certain temperature, because once you go above that temperature, you kill off all the good stuff, basically, right?
Yep. Well, it's not basically, it is. Okay. Yeah, it's dead. I mean, 80 degrees, you have to have a dehumidifier, and 80 degrees is really low. So a lot of dehumidifiers, when people get them, don't have a temperature control. But if somebody's really careful about what they're eating, they can control the temperature. And 80 would mean that you probably add another day or two onto a dehydration process. So we're talking low.
Okay.
It's much lower than what you would be if you put low on your oven. Okay. To keep something live. So yeah.
So you see this temperature, it gets you excited because you've been doing raw for so long. And if anybody's tried to eat raw, I lasted for less than a week.
Yeah.
Difficult to do. I felt like a horse, grazing on different things. So what else besides the temperature? So when you first got the products, or when you first started trying them, what was the experience like for you?
Well, I went whole hog before I ever tried a drop. So I looked at the information. I mean, it's live. It's isolated plant molecules that are 100% absorbed while they're creating lightning during the process. So there's negative ions in the drops. Okay, so let's talk about plant-based medicine, which is what I call this. And plant-based medicine, the oldest medicine on the planet, is plant-based medicine, where you're collecting twigs and berries and bark and all these other things. That's herbology, whether it's Indian or, Vedic herbology or Chinese herbology or Western. And but the Chinese and the Vedic is probably older. And you create a tea, and you very slowly heat it to create a tea. Now, the plant medicine is here to remind your body's physiology on how it's supposed to function. That's its job. That's what plant medicine is. And even like 10,000 years ago, you went to your doctor to stay healthy, even when you weren't sick, because if you were the only baker in the community and you became ill, nobody got anything from you, right? You were an essential part of the community. And so preventative care medicine is what it's all about. Now, our culture is very much that don't do anything until it's bad enough, right? It's very symptom based. And so I feel like the drops, that there's a huge opportunity not to bring this into our culture and be symptom based about it. So a couple times people have asked me like, well, which ones do you take? I'm like, all of them. I take them all. My goal every day is to take every single drop. And I actually take some of them multiple times, right? So it's like if the barometric pressure is going to, go high here, I can feel it. I'm like, oh, I better take another brain and relax. So I really like it for stuff like that. And because the thing is like, if you look at the drops and like for ice, yeah, it's great. If you're feeling bloated or you have heartburn, it doesn't say that anywhere in the bullet points, that Mary Esther created, which are so amazing. And you're missing out. You're missing out on, having the support of a healthy intestinal flora. Well, the intestines are super important, and having that healthy intestinal flora is key. So there's a lot of things that are happening that aren't necessarily available if you do them once every 2 weeks or something like that. And so I'll stop and see if you have any questions.
So you're saying basically intuitively you reach for different drops multiple times a day. You take all of them, where maybe for me, I look and I go, okay, I'm going to go to bed now. I'm going to do RLX and I'm going to do ice and I'm going to do NRM together, which is an amazing combo. If you have never tried that before, try it. So I have this regimen, but you do it intuitively. And I've heard you say earlier something about at 11 o'clock, is it the spleen goes to bed or something like that? And you talk about organs, where I talk about drops. You're talking about different organs in your body. Would you mind kind of elaborating on that?
Sure. I'm happy to. Okay. And I did see this in one group somewhere. It's called a Harari clock, and it's a 2-hour time frame, which is the heightened time that your organs function. It's very specific. So 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the heightened time for the heart to function. And guess when most people are having heart attacks? From 11 did I say that backwards? From 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. is the low time for the heart, which is when many people are having heart attacks. So it's like you can go from 11 to 1, the time when everybody's so tired during the day, 3 to 7 is the heightened time for the water. It's when you're supposed to be taking a nap, and everyone's like trying to push through being exhausted and all that stuff, or going for an energy drink. It's definitely not a great time to be doing that, because it's all about, like, the Europeans have it right. Like, that's their time that they nap. And then they go out and party, and stuff like that. It's like our culture needs to be the same. So there's certain things. And so you can actually, when I'm working with clients, I'm like, they're telling me about things that are happening. I'm like, well, what time did that happen? Because it's a clue, right? So, yeah. So did I answer your question?
So your body's like on a clock, right? So you're talking about different occurrences that happen traditionally at different points of the day. You're talking about the Europeans, and if any of you have been to Europe and you're shopping at 2 p.m. and you want to buy something, they'll shut down right in the middle of the day, and they'll all do a siesta. They do that in South America too. But maybe these are more not just traditions, but maybe they're health based. Maybe somebody figured out a long time ago in these cultures that your body should be at rest. When we're in Western civilization, we're pounding energy drinks to power us through these times when we probably shouldn't. So having said that, there's a different time for different drops. Is that what you're saying, or is it just to be aware?
Well, I mean, I don't like to be exact, and there's someone who's not unmute. I can hear it, so
I will mute that person.
Like on that, I'm super sensitive to sound. Thanks,
Hey,
thank you. That's actually like the ability to hear are the kidneys, and the ability to sort what you're hearing is the small intestine, which gets into ADD and ADHD, if you want to call it that, and digestive issues and subconscious things of that nature. So I don't know. I mean, I take the HBR before bed because it's a detoxing one. And, you know, I think you don't want to, I want to do a detoxing thing when my digestive system is at rest. And it's basically a time for fasting. So I do similar to what you do. I do the HPR before bed, the RLX. NRM before bed is an amazing thing because, you know, having your blood sugar balanced, or the ability to have the most that you could be balanced before you go to bed is really a lovely thing to do for yourself. But there are certain times that I'm going for the norm. I don't know, is it called the NRM, MLS, the GTS, and the GRW? Those are usually the first 4 that I'm taking in the morning. And then, you know, I have like basically a shoebox on with Post-it notes all over everything. And I'll just rifle through. And my husband's, you know, totally on board and using all the drops also. And I'll just sort of, I don't know, see how I feel. I do certain ones like ALT and BTY. I agree with, I've seen that video that you did with her, the interview, which I think is amazing. I've literally watched it 3 times. I need to watch it again. BTY, I'm not a super fan of the name either. The skin is the 3rd lung. It's the largest organ of your body. So the thing is, it's way beyond, you know, this one says cellular renewal for BTY, and Chinese medicine, the lungs are about the Wei Qi, and Wei Qi is literally the immune system. It's the barrier that keeps things from you.
So Pauline, can I jump in real quickly? So what Pauline's referring to is, we did an interview with Mary Esther, and we bought up this product BTY, and she said it's deceptive. The title is deceptive of the product, because if you look at this product, it almost is kind of marketed towards women for beauty. But what you're saying is, look, it addresses the largest organ in your body, which is skin. And so she said it was deceptive, kind of deceptive. You're saying the same thing. And it's because it's very powerful, right? Because it does much more than just helping people look great. Yeah.
I mean, cellular renewal, and I mean, you have to sort of read between the lines on these bullet points. And I'd like to share as much of that if I can with you guys tonight, just so, you know, maybe if you like it, you can use it. But yeah, so BTY and free radical damage, I mean, everything. And I did make a sheet where I can see everything. I took the 3 bullet points, so I have it at a glance. But BTY and ALT, I put those together. Those are the lungs. I mean, the lungs, it's the metal element. It gets into self-worth, connection to the heavens. When your lungs are functioning, you're breathing in heavenly chi, no matter what your religion or spiritual being or whatever. And the heightened time for the lungs is 3 to 5 a.m. It's also the low time for the bladder, so you're probably waking up to go to the bathroom right then. But 3 to 5 a.m. around the globe is when everyone's waking to meditate. And so during a 24-hour period of time, people are meditating 24 hours a day because it's 3 to 5 a.m. somewhere, right? And I also heard a lot of people who had COVID say that their skin was itching. Well, it's the 3rd lung. You know, so if you're going to have any lung response to what's happened, it's like, that makes sense to me. And the other one that makes total sense to me is this loss of smell, because the colon exit point of the meridian is at the nose, and the exit point is called welcome fragrance.
Interesting.
Welcome fragrance. Those 2 are partners. The lungs and the colon are partners in the metal element. And if you have sinus issues, and this is maybe getting off track, but the exit point of the colon is here and the stomach entry point is here. And if you're congested, you have something that's fermenting in your colon that you shouldn't be eating. So cut it out. So so some people, if they have like some things, I'm like, okay, do the detox, because that's colon stuff. Anything that says detox, do that. And anything that says lung and breathing, do those things together. So it's like, you can kind of see things that way. Like GRW right away. This one's talking about hair vitality. Well, the kidneys own the hair, and the kidneys are your soul. It's your bones, your teeth. It's your ability to push through and drive, which I don't recommend. If your adrenal glands are here so that if a tiger's chasing you and it wants to eat you for dinner, that you can actually run up the tree. It's not meant for you to go to the grocery store for a carton of orange juice. So we're living like super inappropriately. So if you think, okay, preventative care medicine. I just said to somebody the other day, I was like, getting a symptom-based response or product that's a quick fix may not take you to the health and happiness and vitality that you want at 80. You know what I mean? It's like, so plant-based medicine is here to remind your body's physiology on how it's supposed to function. This is basically one of the purest products I've ever seen. Combined with the negative ions, which is all about happiness. It's all about, you get in those oxygen tanks, or you go to the beach, or you chill out, or you drink a certain kind of water, all of that feel good stuff. You walk into a greenhouse and the oxygen is different. It's like, that's all the things that you get. And it's not by choice. It's 100% absorbed. So it's coming into your body, whether you recognize it or not. Some people are just not self-aware. And so I think the thing is that's okay. We don't want to make anybody wrong about them not feeling something, but, is it benefiting them? Yes. There's just no way that it can't, particularly since it's live. And in Chinese herbs are really complicated, because if you do it wrong, you can hurt somebody. I mean, the Western mindset does it wrong, because they'll take something like ephedra that's really important for people who have asthma, and then they give people 50,000 times the amount that's recommended, and there's a collision happens. But it's like, it's very complicated, and then people don't want to take the Chinese herbs because it tastes like dirt. Most of the time, it doesn't taste that great, or you have to really get used to it. And there's a process. And I want to see somebody after 30 days. It's like, so, I think that there's a certain commitment. I mean, some people that I have been sharing the drops with who maybe don't feel the energy of it, they feel like they're doing something really positive for themselves. Mm-hmm. They have that sense of well-being, that they're taking care of themselves in a really powerful way that's delicious. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's like feel-good happiness for me. I just love it that that's happening. And then I have friends with kids, and they're like happy to pop them. So did I go off on a tangent?
Oh, no, it's great.
Okay.
You're describing so many different things. So I would just consider myself pretty average. I react to things. I was taught my whole life that when I have a headache, I take a Tylenol. When I do this, I take an allergy pill. So I react. That's what I do. And I'm willing to bet that most people on the call tonight are raised the same way I was raised, like you were raised. We react to things. In your approach, with your knowledge, you're looking at different functions of the body, different organs, different times of the day, and you intuitively kind of take these drops at different times. What kind of advice can you give us? You talked about some times of the day for different products. What kinds of advice would you give, let's say, a male who maybe has heart problems or maybe has insomnia? What kind of conversation does that look like for you if you're to talk to them?
Well, it would be a long conversation because well, obvious. I mean, HRT and RLX. Yeah, insomnia is actually a condition that's strongly related to the heart, and you could say heart chi and stuff like that. But I don't know. So I would have to think about that, because that just shifted it right into it's kind of, sorry, it's not where I'm at right now. I was thinking I started
don't
to tell
wanna-
you guys about,
Yeah.
I started to tell you guys about GRW, and I went
Please.
off on the kidney thing with the hair. So the hair vitality is hairs owned by the kidneys. So hair, teeth, and bones. Nail strength is the gallbladder, actually. And anytime you talk about the eyes, the liver owns the eyes, and the liver is the mother of the blood. So anything blood related is the liver. I'm thinking, 100% GRW. Totally. And the fact that it also gets into mood, and the immune response, so immune response is actually combined with the things that are here, makes me think about the bladder, because the kidneys and the bladder are together in the water element. And the thing is, everyone's running around like they're puddle. It's just a puddle of a million things, 10,000 things going on, and there's all reaction, no depth. And that's, be nice to your bladder, because it's the container. It's the largest meridian of your body, and it starts right at your eyes too, and goes through your back twice and down the back of your legs. So, so that one, I feel like is major. And for women, that and the PWR, I think I really like those two together specifically, although I do take GRW without it. Like I don't want to put myself or anybody else into a thing where it's like I missed a time, so I'm not going to take something. I missed my 11 o'clock window, or I forgot to take my GRW with my power, so I'm not going to do it. I feel like I was talking to a friend of mine today, and she's grouped hers in flavors that she likes. So I think that is so great, because that's how she wants to do it. And, something too that Mary Esther said in her video interview with you is that your body knows what to do with it. Like, and if you think, okay, this is medicine, and you know it, and you just sort of reach for what you feel is the right thing at the right time, then go for it. And regarding the symptom-based thing, it's like, yeah, the barometric pressure, like when that goes high, I can feel it like the day before, and my voice changes and my eyes start to hurt. Now, I'm going to treat it like Tylenol in that way, because that's happening for me. But the thing is like, I would love more information on the science, but it is called accumulate SA, and plant-based medicine is that if it's reminding your body's physiology on how to function, and again, this is 10,000-year-old medicine that's just coming out in a drop, kind of, it's shifting how you are. So it's like the more that you take these like healthy intestinal flora, you want that. Everybody wants that. I want healthy microbial, microbial balance. And this gets into the microcirculation, and that science is super important, because if your microcirculation is dirty and closed, it causes inflammation, and inflammation is the foundation to every single negative thing that's happening in everyone's life, period. It's inflammation. And it's because we're not, it's the culture that we live in, and we do the best that we can. But there's many reasons for that. So it's like, you want your microcirculation open and clean. And when it's open and clean, then so many things are better, including, cellular age and your ability to ward off things, and, all that kind of goodness. And also feel emotionally, with more vitality and balance, handle, and when you get into Chinese and Eastern medicine or anything like that, it's about the Tao, and the Tao is the oneness, and it's very much about nature. And they're the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, and this might be like, hopefully I won't lose you guys, because I'm not going to talk about this for very long, but that's in the Lao Tzu wrote the 64 poems about this. And really it is that life is still going to happen. It's your response to life that needs to change. And when you get into the oneness, it's like the Tai Chi moves and all those warrior movies and the samurai and everything. It's like to move out of the way. It's not to be aggressive and move forward. And so it's like when you think about moving out of the way and you're having your response to life shift, it's like that's the key. And so I don't know about a lot of you, but I felt the negative ions, I don't know, pretty quick. And my husband did too. And I was just like, I, I just feel like a little happier. And I was like, and I was telling everyone that I was like, it's not that I was unhappy, but I'm definitely happier, and it's that feeling that I'm not getting right now because I'm not at a waterfall or in a wheatgrass room and stuff like that. So we also noticed right away that we weren't as hungry. Now, somebody I talked to, a friend of mine, felt like that meant appetite suppressant. And I was like, no, that's not what I said. It's not an appetite suppressant. You're actually absorbing the nutrients from the plants because they're live and it's 100% absorbed. I mean, a lot of people have what's called mucoid plaques, in their colon. I mean, the colon is here to like reabsorb 80%. That's where you're hydrated. If your colon can't absorb the water that's moving through it, it's like that can cause dehydration. And also too, the small intestine is about storing nutrients and letting go of toxins. And some people have it the other way around because they're taxed. And so the thing is like, you can notice that you may be not going towards sugar as much. And usually when people are going towards sugar, it's because you're exhausted, and sugar creates super fast chi. It helps you get through your day when otherwise you would be crawling on the floor because you're tired, exhausted, and depleted. So, when I talk to people who are like that, I'm like, well, still do the sugar until we get you ramped up and fill your tank back up, but choose a better sugar. And the thing is like the drops don't have sugar added to them. It's the beet juice, but it's giving you that flavor, and it's important to give you a calorie, because when you have empty calories, that actually causes weight gain. And there's so much stuff on the internet about that, but it gives you something, and it gives you the nutrients that you're absorbing along with the negative ion. It's like the perfect trifecta.
Our guest tonight, Pauline Kehoe, philosophy in Eastern medicine and the Eastern approach. Some of us might be having a harder time following this conversation than others. And the reason being, this is an Eastern approach. We're so used to, and I tried to guide you there, so I apologize.
Oh.
We're so used to in Western medicine, hey, I'm feeling this, what do I take? We want to be told what to take, where you're so intuitive, understanding how the body systems work. And your approach is very, very unique. Even from Mary Esther, and I told Mary Esther earlier that I'd be interviewing you, and she read your bio, and she's very excited about Chinese herbology. She's a very big fan about that. So let's continue with this discussion. You're talking about empty calories. You're talking about that it's not an appetite suppressant, right? And
yes, so somebody's off mute again. Sharon dropped off mute. Oh, there you go. Thanks.
Okay, great. So please continue on, and maybe, well, let me kind of redirect if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Jenny spoke with you, my wife, a week ago, and you guys were talking about some of the women's issues. And being a male host, I don't want to get in the way of that, because there's some really important items that she was discussing, having hot flashes and menopause and things like that. And I think you had a couple of thoughts on it from your point of view. Would you mind sharing some of that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we definitely talked about GRW and PWR. I mean, I think the big thing about the GRW is it fills your tank, and I'm saying that just because of the bullet points that Mary Esther wrote, and that's what's really important. You don't want to push through being exhausted. And I think it's funny that you were trying to direct me there, and I just couldn't go there with that. I'm like, yeah. So, all right. So let me look at some of the other ones. I know everybody loves the STP and the SLD together. I have an autoimmune. I mean, I've had it. I didn't even know that's what it was until I was in my 20s. It was called an autoimmune. So anytime anything says inflammation, I'm like, every day for me, and maybe multiple times during the day. We have had really good success with that here too, particularly with my husband, because we just started a renovation and he took 2 weeks off to help the contractor. And he was like, okay, I'm like, I would just give him the drops. And I was giving him those in the morning because he hasn't done like labor work. He's an IT guy. So, and he's like, okay, I'm going to not take them for 24 hours and see how I do. And he was hurting. and he told me, he's like, I am suffering. And so, and then, the work on his part continued, and he would wake up in the morning and the first thing he would take were those two. And so much so that what I want to share is we just like did this room and we realized, okay, there's no insulation in that roof. Well, when they did the work, there was a cold front here, an unseasonable cold front, where like we had our heat on last month, and then we're in a heat wave right now. So he overheated, and I could hear him breathing funny through. And then he barely got down, and he was practically hyperventilating. And the reason we live in Iowa now and not Florida, where my family is because he can't handle the heat. And he was lying down on the concrete floor in the garage, and all of that happened. And then he started popping the drops, and he said, and he's not one to like go gung-ho or like really say a bunch of stuff, but what he says is super important. He's like, I don't even feel like any of that happened this morning.
Amazing.
I feel completely fine and vibrant and alive. And I was like, wow, that is a serious testimonial, so it's like, so I feel like that kind of thing is important to notice, because people want to look for everything changing overnight. And if you think holistic medicine, ancient times, you take care of yourself when you're feeling great. Like, in my acupuncture practice, and I'm not seeing anybody in person right now, I tend to treat more long distance, but I don't want to see you when everything's, hit the fan. I want to see you consistently over a period of time to maintain your health and your wellness and your vitality. It's like if everything is putting a fire out, you always have your gas tank on empty. And so, I think one of the important things too is like the tongue is like the map of the United States. And that's how they diagnose for Chinese herbs, which is symptom based. And the medicine, the acupuncture that I do is really spirit based. It's who you are, not what is happening in your life. Okay. That's a symptom that can shift. So it's like when you look at things that way, a lot of people are who have a lot of products are sticking their tongues out in the pictures that they're doing. And I'm like, it's not a good idea, because you can tell that there's some issues happening immediately. So you guys can all go like, maybe take a picture of your tongue now and then check it out. It's like the weirder it looks, and you can look it up online if you want to figure it out. But if you keep doing the drops, it's going to shift and change, and you'll feel better.
Interesting. Yeah. So Pauline, of all the drops that we have, are there any particular drops that took you by surprise, or did nothing surprise you based on the ingredient list?
You know what? I have watched, I think I mentioned that interview with you and Mary Esther, and I watched another video that she did, and I found the link to her book, and I had to reach out to her. I looked at all the ingredients, but I try and keep the Chinese medicine out of the conversation, like talking about like, yeah, there's some Chinese herbs in there. I don't call them, like ashwagandha is a classic one. But, the thing is like, then I feel like everyone would go cross-eyed because, it's like so not, this where we live. And the thing about Chinese herbs is that it's the tea. That's the key. It's not necessarily, if you take all these pieces and parts away from each other, it's not the same thing. If it's like when you're creating a personalized Chinese herbal medicine, it's like you want to make sure everyone gets along at the dinner party. You have that one friend that you really love, but everything always blows up when she's around, and you want to have a really intimate night. It's like you might be really selective about the 5 people that you invite. That's the key about Chinese medicine, is like it needs to make sense, and they need to work together on purpose. And I feel like the purpose of each of the ingredients that are in the drops is somebody really thought about these. And then you have somebody, as detailed. If you guys haven't watched that interview with Mary Esther and Kauri, I totally recommend it. But it's like, it's very on point.
It's very cool. Really smart. I know.
And,
I do feel like a company.
Hey, Kathy, we can hear you.
Kathy just. Sorry, Kathy. Go ahead.
So that's what I love about like just being able to take them and not necessarily even understanding, because nobody needs to go get, a degree or learn a bunch of this stuff. It's like the key things for me is that it's 100% absorbed. It's live. Well, that's the number one for me. It's live. It's 100% absorbed. And it has the negative ions. And so those are key. It's not gonna, and I love that it is helping normalize people's blood sugar levels. I mean, holy wow. I mean, that is just so huge. It's crazy. And has so many ramifications for so many people in the entire world. Because, that's the path of, am I allowed to, I won't say it. The path of what happens when your blood sugar levels get out of control, that's the path to something else that you don't want. You know what I mean? It's like, so when you're making Chinese herbs and you're throwing out all of these things, you're walking through the forest and you're getting the plants, the sticks and the berries, you're putting in the witch's brew pot with water, and what heats it, the fire that heats it, are the kidneys. So don't blast through and push through being exhausted, because that's, it's like your heart stops, you stop breathing. We know what's happening. Your kidneys start to go. It's like a lot of that is because of the way that people behave. It's that pushing through being exhausted, which is very much a cultural thing, this exhausted, tired and depleted, particularly for women. I mostly work with women and who are feeling this way. A lot of healers I work with. And it's like, so I feel like one way that you can tone it down is to be more conscious, maybe when you have the drops, and see how you're feeling and making sure that you're using them, because they're working without your knowledge, and just keep with it. I think that's important.
So Mary Esther said, agreeing with you, that we asked her how much is too much, and she said there is no too much. Your body will absorb and use all of these nutrients all the time, so you can't take too many of them. You're saying right now, if I understand you correctly, don't wait until there's a crisis to throw the drops in. Don't wait until something's gone south before you start taking the drops. Look at the ingredients, research the ingredients, look at the benefits that we describe, and start taking them often.
I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying take them.
Take them.
Yeah, I mean, keep it simple. How many people want to go out and research a ton of stuff? I mean, the beauty of it, it's already done. And I actually love the fact that Sergey clearly said he went out and bought the science. I mean, he's truly a genius. You can't get smarter than that. He didn't reinvent the wheel, and then he made his own, manufacturing facilities so he can control it. I mean, I love that. I love it, love it, love it. And I love that he hasn't changed anything in 9 years. I mean, that's so important to me. And so because you can rely on this. And so it's that kind of critical care about like what you're putting together and the product that you're putting out. And there's no contraindication. It doesn't matter what medication you're taking or, what's happening in your life, because these are plants. It can't hurt you. And I didn't really ever think about taking NRM multiple times during the day. I did read somebody's post, and I thought that was really interesting. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense to take an NRM after you eat, particularly, if you have a blood sugar level and before bed, what we talked about. It's like really great not to go to bed with your blood sugars high. So in that way, and definitely if I have a headache coming on, the BRN and the relax, the BRN and the STP. Is that what it is? Yeah, the BRN and the STP. But if somebody's about to have a migraine, and I've never had that before except up here, and I'm like, well, let's throw everything at it. Let's do the STP, the SLD, the RLX, and the BRN. I mean, like, why not? They're so tasty together. It doesn't matter to me, the different flavors. They're all good. And so it's like, yeah, so I will do it like that, but I'm taking all of those any day. And I'll tell you what, one day the barometric pressure was so crazy here. I was shocked that I just can't even look. My eyes just hurt so much. And I did those multiple times throughout the day. And it wasn't until like 9 o'clock at night that I submitted to 2 Tylenol. I was like, that's it. And so I feel like that was a huge accomplishment. And for that reason, I feel like, yeah, if you have a symptom, use them for that. But yes, don't pull them out of the closet when that's the only time that you have it, because I feel like you're missing the opportunity to shift and change from the plants. This is plant medicine, and it is the oldest medicine on the planet, literally. And there's a lot of really smart products that are isolating the molecules now. And the fact that these are beyond organic and halal and kosher, I mean, wow. We can't have, I actually told somebody, I was like, take all 15 and consider yourself just having like the best dinner ever, your 5-course meal. I mean, I don't use it instead of eating, but the point is that if you go to an expensive dinner, the chances of you actually absorbing all the nutrients and actually having beyond organic that's halal and kosher are very small. Wow. Like teeny tiny. So it's like you're really feeding yourself. So, I mean, who here notices that they're not as hungry, or you're not going for sugar as much? Yeah, I see a couple of hands up and nods. Yeah, at least on the page where I can see people. But
so that's because we're getting the nutrients, plant-based nutrients. They're being absorbed through our olfactory right into our bloodstream almost instantly, which is why such a small drop can have such a profound effect, right? Yeah. That's really interesting. So tonight, to kind of wrap things up, and we've got a few more minutes, so we're not going to cut out just yet. What you're saying is you're impressed with the architecture of each drop as far as the ingredients. The person who combined these knew what they were doing. You can taste the negative ions. My wife used a cosmetic line that's negatively ion charged years ago. When she first popped one of these drops into her mouth, she said, I feel like I'm using that cosmetic line. And she went and found it and showed it to me. And it said negative ion cosmetic line. And I thought that was really interesting because she hadn't read any of the literature, right? So I really like your approach, because sometimes I tend, and I'm sure I'm not the only one here, to really look at this as, I'm feeling this way, so take this. I'm feeling this way, so take this. And you're saying the opposite. You're saying, take them all. Take them all and enjoy them. You're going to get much more nutrients.
Yeah, I love the way that Sergey has created this too, where customers can be prime customers, for the $25, and they get the wholesale price, and they don't even have to be on auto ship. And so they're getting the products at the same as we are. And then, so it creates that freedom so people can, make the right decisions for themselves about what they want to do. And certainly if you're at an associate with APL Go, the promotions that he's so incredibly generous, it's mind-boggling in the best way. So it's like you can freely, if you have all of these boxes sitting somewhere, use them, because you are exemplifying the opportunity that somebody else is going to have to change their life too. And that's the best thing that we can do, is represent. And I don't know.
I love it. So Pauline, I've got a couple of questions that have popped up on the screen. I'm going to read them to you. Okay. Number one, do you take PWR men?
I love lemon drops, and your wife, Jenny and I talked about this. I did it once, and I have kind of been reserving it for my husband, because I'm like, I want him to take the drops, but so I did it once and I tasted it and it is really good. So I might do it more, but I agree. Mary Esther said, if you don't like the flavor of the Power Women, or you want to if you want to do both, because there's an intelligence. I mean, you're not going to start growing hair on your chin, or need to shave, or you may have hair on your chin already, but So if you're called intuitively to take that, or it's something that you really enjoy, do it.
So when we talk about being called intuitively, is this the body's way of manifesting what it wants by having cravings. So after I take, let's say I'm starting to take these different drops, and I might not know which one to take, but my body's craving a certain drop. Is that an intuitive, what you're talking about?
Yeah. Anytime I think of something or it comes to me, it's like that can be intuition. I feel like sometimes you get the intuition kumbaya, and I can be a kumbaya and far out too, but it misleads everybody that suddenly, the light needs to descend upon you. So, I mean, I feel like if suddenly you're thinking about HPR, go take one, right? It's like, how many times did you get the hit to move the glass on the table that's on the corner of the table? And then it breaks and you're like, I got the hit a while ago that I needed to move it. That's intuition, right? Huh. So it's like, just follow how you said, yeah.
You're talking about trusting your body. You're talking about listening to it, your body, and what it needs.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. If you're driving down the highway and you have loved ones in the car, or you're just by yourself, it doesn't really matter, and you get the hit to get in the right lane, do you do it?
If I have to get in the right lane?
If you get the hit to move into the right lane, do you move into the right lane?
Yes.
Always, right? Because you're thinking there could be a car accident I'm missing, or you get the hit to drive a different way to work, but you don't exactly know why, but you're like, I'm game for it because, in a second something could happen, and right? A near miss. I mean, we hear about these stories all the time. You do it. Yes. Right? Well, it's the same thing. That's intuition. It's like, so when you intuitively get a hit about a job, take it.
Okay.
Simple. Don't question it. Just do it. Right? So, yeah.
Simple.
That's yeah.
So here's another question. What is the name of the organ chart you referenced in the very beginning? And she mentioned the time of daylight for organ support.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily organ support. So it's called the Horary clock, Horary. It's somebody literally posted it in
Go Life.
I think in Go Life. And there are some interesting comments.
Some that you didn't agree with.
Yeah. But that is ancient medicine. Somebody just didn't sit around and pull that one out. So I can tell you guys right now, real quickly, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the heightened time for the heart to function. And the thing is that it's beyond just the heart organ. The heart is about being aware, present, and conscious on all levels of the body, mind, emotion, and spirit. You think about Queen Arthur and King Elizabeth, it's everything, okay? And then its partner is the small intestine, which is going to be from 1 to 3. And then 3 to 5 is the bladder. 5 to 7 is the kidney. 7 to 9 is the pericardium, or what we call the heart protector. A lot of trust issues, wrist stuff. The heart protector, Forrest Gump, think of that. The triple heater is 7 to 9 p.m. And then here's the key. The gallbladder's heightened time for functioning is, I'm off. 11 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 9, 9 to 11 is the gallbladder. And you want to be, 1, 2, 3. No, that's the triple heater. Sorry. The 7 is, the gallbladder is 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Oh my gosh. I'll find that thing and we'll make sure that it's all available to you guys. I totally screwed it up. So, because you want to be asleep by 11 p.m. at night, or you're going to be up until after 3 a.m. And there's a reason for that. I see some laughs. The reason for that is the heightened time for the gallbladder to function is from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. 1 a.m. And it's about decision-making and planning. And so it's the mind. And so it's like, if you're not asleep, a lot of people start thinking about all these sorts of crazy things, and they might be really important things, but some of them are crazy. I see Michael's face. And so the thing is like, you need to be asleep before 11. Okay. Now, 1 to 3 a.m. How many of you guys, when you're doing all that late night fun disco dancing and everything else that you did, it's like, even if you didn't go and do all that stuff and you were at home and you stayed up late and you read a book and it's after 3 a.m., you feel like you're hungover the next day. right? Because the heightened time for the liver to function is between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. And the liver, that's when it's filtering your blood. That's a heightened time for it to filter your blood. And when you're awake, that's not happening. And also, too, there's a spiritual side. So mind, body, emotion, spirit. And the spirit is the deepest within the deepest. It's like there's a part of you that takes flight. And the liver is about vision and hope, like literally vision and hope. It's, controls the eyes, and it's the mother of the blood. So it's super important. You need to be asleep. So anyway, so that's 1 to 3. 3 to 5 is the lungs, when most people are waking to pray, or they're just waking and they don't know what's going up, and maybe they have arm stuff happening, and that's because the meridians are running down the arms, and it's a low time for the bladder, right? So you're going to wake up and go to the bathroom. So 3 to 5 is the lungs. 5 to 7 is the colon. That's when you got to wake up and have a good poop. We get all into blood and bowel movements in Chinese medicine. So, take your HPR before you go to bed and have a great poop. I did hear from a friend of mine. She's like that. She was talking about her bowel movements after doing the drops. And I was like, great, because she's getting what she needs and those nutrients are going in. And then where are we? 7 to 9, they always say the biggest meal that you should have is in the morning with your breakfast. Should be the biggest meal. That's because the heightened time for the stomach to function is 7 to 9 a.m. And the thing is most people, their largest meals, I mean, I'm at fault for this too, is 7 to 9 p.m., but that's the lowest time for your stomach to function. And then, so then we have 9, we finish it off with 9 a.m. to 11, which is the spleen. Now, when you think of the stomach, and this is super important because there's lots of drops here for the stomach, but I always think of I Love Lucy when she's like running in the wheelbarrow thing and the grapes, they're smushing on the grapes and they're running around smushing on the grapes. That's the job of the stomach, is to rotten and ripen. It needs to rotten and ripen the food that you're making and give it to the spleen, and the spleen makes chi. Western medicine, if you ask Western medicine, they have no idea what the spleen does at all. It's like a complete unknown unless somebody's just figured it out. In Chinese medicine, the spleen is everything because it's responsible for making chi. And chi is pure life force energy. And it moves through your body in partnership with your blood. It also holds your organs in place. So people who have prolapsed organs, that is some serious spleen yang deficiency. So it's like, that is where, that's why everything just doesn't fall out, right? It's like it's held in your body. So that's kind of how it moves. And then the spleen moves the chi around the whole body. I'm sorry, I totally botched the times earlier. I'm
Okay.
so visual that it's like I need to see it. And I actually have a thing over here.
Well, you got through so much depth.
You guys got it.
Yeah, I think we got it. And so I want to thank you tonight. We're going to wrap up our presentation. Pauline, thank you for sharing the Eastern philosophical approach to health. And for a lot of us, including myself, this is a lot of new things for me. But what I've gotten out of this was take all the drops, listen to what my body wants, because my body's intuitive. And you gave a great example of driving down the road, intuitively knowing I shouldn't be in this lane or I should be in that lane, but to trust those. And there's some spiritual elements that you're describing as well that are really, really significant. So I want to thank you for the education. We're going to have Dr. Mary Esther, hopefully in 2 weeks, join us as well, which will be a lot of fun. She's getting her book rewritten, and we're going to have her as a guest. So stay tuned for that announcement. But I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. It's a different approach to holistic health, and I hope that you gained something out of it. If it's just one person is thinking along a different line of, I'm going to trust my body because of what I've heard tonight from Pauline and with all of her qualifications, then we won tonight. So thank you so much. And any last maybe 30 seconds to close out, anything you'd like to say as we exit tonight?
No, I just want to thank you all for coming, and I really appreciate all the energy that's coming through. Well, I guess the last thing I do want to mention, I mentioned the stomach and how important it is. Look at those bullet points, and that's like your Bible. That's your clue. Read between the lines. Anything that says anything stomach, well-being, gastrointestinal, microbial balance, all those things, those are so important. So if you are feeling tired, exhausted, and depleted, those are key drops for you. And I love them first thing in the morning.
All right, I love it.
Okay. All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Have a good night, everyone. This is recorded. We'll
Pauline.
post it tomorrow.
Night, thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
very much, Pauline.
Thanks, Pauline.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
Pauline.
Thanks, Pauline.
Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Pauline, you were
Can't thank you
amazing.
enough.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Kauri.
So much new
That was-
information. Thanks, Kauri.
Really
Thanks, you guys.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. Good night, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night, Kauri.
Thank you.